If I was to start investing today, these are the exact steps that I would follow. Now, I did start investing 4.5 years ago. What happened to me is I woke up on New Year's Day 2020. I was like, right, I need to take control of my financial future. Step one I did, and step one I would recommend is start learning, start researching. Now, the first book I picked up was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the best place to start now. It's more around property, but it really helped me to understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Now, if you don't know what they are, read that book. It's a great place to start. It's around building up assets basically that pay you, using your money to create money. You know, we've heard it all before, but it breaks it down, helps you understand it. Next thing I would read would be something by Andrew Craig, probably Live on Less, Invest the Rest, which I did do before I started investing as well. Actually, I read his first one, which was How to Own the World. I think that's a bit more technical, a bit more complicated. I really like Live on Less, Invest the Rest. And the third book I would read will be Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Now, if you've read those three books, or even the second two books, you are going to be ahead of 99% of the UK. I guarantee it. You're going to understand so much more than you ever knew it was possible to understand. And basically what it teaches you is you have to go through a bit of a journey of how simple it is actually to start investing. Once you understand some of the key principles and the risk, and once you understand the psychology behind it and stay consistent, it is actually really easy. There's also a whole load of really good content creators out there now as well. Search them out. Drop me a DM if you want. I'll let you know who I really rate, but there's a whole load of them out there. Find them. You'll very quickly know who they are that are good and the ones that aren't so good. Next thing to do is work out what's your goal. Why are you investing? So what is it that you want to do? Is it to reach financial independence? Is it to retire early? Do you just want to build up a whole pot because you're scared of running out of money? Do you want to leave money for your kids? Do you want to buy a house? What's your time frame? What's your risk tolerance? What's your budget? All of that sort of stuff. What is it you're trying to achieve? So I'll give you an example. What's my reason for starting? So I started when I was 37 with the aim of reaching financial independence by the time I am 50. So I am now 41, so I'm 4 years into that journey, and I'm on track to do that. So what I've had to do to understand what that number is as well, so that's an important thing, is work out what the number is that you are aiming for. So for me, it's £600,000. Why? Because that's a pot that's big enough to pay all of my bills, and means at that point, I do not necessarily need to work. All of my bills will be paid, and there'll be a bit left over for spending money for enjoying myself. Now, it's not the case that I actually do want to give up work. I really enjoy my job, and I really enjoy all of this sort of stuff as well that I do, but it gives me that independence. Your goal might be completely different. Your time horizon might be completely different, but just know why are you doing it? Because if you don't have a goal, you'll never reach it. So at this point, you know how the markets work. You know how investing works. You know what your goal is. You know how much you need to be depositing in terms of reaching that goal. Now, you could do all of these steps in a month, you know, if you really smash them out of the bag, get those books into you. I know it's hard to read books sometimes. Maybe you want to use Audible. That's how I consume books, but get yourself to that point. You can do it inside a month. At this point, then it is time to start moving on to beginning your investing journey. Now, the first thing you need to do is choose a broker, right? And the best thing I can recommend here is do some research, find out what the fees are, look on the trust pilots of all of them. But basically, you want a free broker. That is a broker where you don't pay any platform fees on it. So there are different types of fees, which perhaps we'll come on to in a bit, but the platform fees are the ones that could kill you. So for example, within Hargreaves Lansdown, there is a 0.45% platform fee, right? It doesn't sound like a lot, but in £100, that's 45p, and £1,000, that's £4.50. That just goes up and up. Now, 0.5% giving away from your portfolio every single year is a hell of a lot of money. So I would recommend using one of the free brokers. I personally use Trading 212, but there are a couple of others. Have a look in my bio in the description. Those are my favorite. Actually, if you use those links, you are going to get a kickback as a result of doing so. So not only are they free, they're going to give you a little bit of bunts as well to get started. So you've selected your broker. Now you need to open it, and there will be, irrespective of which one you choose, a whole load of questions you need to fill in and things you need to answer. That is to prevent money laundering. They are not collecting your data and selling it. There is no unscrupulous reason behind it. As long as you've chosen a broker that is protected by the FCA, UK-based broker, they are not doing anything with that. They just have to do that from a regulatory perspective to make sure that your money's safe and you're not also laundering it. Now, at this point, it's very wise to probably, if your circumstances suit, choose a ISA. An ISA is an individual savings account. You can get a stocks and shares ISA. This basically means that you won't pay any tax on any of the gains within your portfolio. You can put up to £20,000 per year into an ISA, into a stocks and shares ISA, and any of the gains within there, you will never get taxed on current rules and laws anyway, that's the way that it is. So if you open an account, you can put up to £20,000 in. If that £20,000 turns into £100,000 and you withdraw every single penny, you do not pay anything in tax. It is one of the greatest financial products that exists in the world, and we're really lucky to have it in the UK. Now, if you're under 40 as well, you might want to consider opening a LISA, which is a lifetime ISA. This allows you to put up to £4,000 of your £20,000 allocation. So, for example, you could put 16,000 into a stocks and shares ISA and 4,000 into a LISA. But what you get from that is an immediate 25% uplift from the government. You put £4,000 in, they will top it up to £5,000. You can then invest that money, or you can put it into a cash LISA or a stocks and shares LISA. Now, there's only two circumstances where you can take that money out. One is to buy your first house, so long as it's worth less than £450,000. You use that as a deposit. And the second is when you reach 60 years of age. So those are the only two circumstances you can take that money out. So it might not be appropriate for you. I wish I had opened one. I'm 41 now, and I don't know why I didn't. You can open one when you are 39, and you can continue to deposit into it up until the age of 50. It is a great product. It does eat into your £20,000 total allocation, but it is worth it for certain people that fit the criteria I just mentioned. So you know how the markets work. You've opened a free broker. You're using a tax-efficient account, and now it's time to start choosing some investments. So again, this is from my perspective. If I was to start from scratch, immediately the first thing I did was start buying individual businesses. That's probably not the right thing to do. I think now, in hindsight, what I would do is an allocation with some individual businesses, because I like picking them and I like playing around with them. And actually, 90% of the ones I've chosen have actually beaten the markets. I've done okay, but this is just, it's as much luck as it is science. Unless you're an absolute expert, professional savant that knows how all of these sort of things work, typically the price of any business is already built into it. There are hundreds of thousands of analysts, of experts looking at businesses, and the market appropriately prices businesses. So the best thing for most people to do is to get into ETFs. ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. It basically is a basket of businesses all collected into one. It's self-cleansing. It grows really well in the long term. It doesn't beat the market. It is the market, but it is very hard for individual businesses to beat it. And typically a lot of hundreds, thousands, probably millions of people have done really, really well, made a lot of money just by investing into ETFs over the long term. We're talking decades. So these come under, they're called tickers, basically, the little code that represents them. So VUSA is a Vanguard S&P 500. FTWG is an Invesco All World. So those are the two I use. For my personal perspectives and reasons, you need to research which are the ones that you want to use. What I'd also do is, if I was interested in investing, is I would have an allocation to individual businesses just to play around with, or maybe an allocation into crypto if that was my bag. It isn't. I'm not interested in crypto at all. But bear in mind, with any of those sort of investments, you can lose everything, right? You're very unlikely to lose everything in an all-world fund. If you do, it is because the world has ended and the value of your portfolio will mean nothing to you. You won't even be bothered. But you can lose everything in individual businesses. They can go bust overnight, or there can be a PR scandal, or there can be a callback or recall, a failure. Anything can happen, and that business can go to zero overnight. So you need to be aware that that's a risk. Same with crypto, it can go to zero. So less so Bitcoin and some of the more established ones, but they can go to zero as well. So understand, if you are going to have an allocation into some of these individual businesses, that you understand that there is really high risk associated with it. But if you want to do it and play around with it like I have done, great, go for it. Now, one of the things you might want to do at that point is get a little bit of help. So the likes of Stockopedia is a great tool that can help you do that. There is a link in my bio somewhere. If you use that, you're going to get a discount for using it. That really helps you to understand the performance of businesses, the likely performance going forward, the track record, any of the insights, any of the analytics, whole raft of different ideas. The other tool you could potentially use is something like Seeking Alpha's Alpha Picks. It's not cheap, but again, there's a discount in my bio if you want to use it. They actually give you a portfolio, and they have far exceeded the performance of the S&P 500 over the last few years. So they've done really well. Again, risk associated with it, completely up to you, your risk appetite, your risk tolerance. It could be a route you want to go down, or you just want to keep it completely simple and just invest into an all world. From here, you want to try and automate it. So have your salary going into one of these accounts as soon as you get paid. So whatever that percentage of your salary is, have it going in there and have it getting deposited into the funds or allocated into the investments that you want them to be going into immediately. Once you get to this point, you've pretty much cracked it. So we're not talking about pensions here. Obviously, we're just talking about opening an investment portfolio and how I would do it in the UK. If you get to this point, you've done this, you've read all of these things, you're using tax efficient products, you understand what your goal is, you understand how much you need to deposit in order to make that goal happen, you stay consistent, you understand that the market will go down some years. Some years your portfolio will drop by 30%, but you just keep on going. You keep on going. And if you keep doing that for 10 years plus 10, 15, 20, 30 years, whatever your time horizon, you're probably going to end up with a few quid. Now, I don't think it's any more complicated than that. That's it in, 8 or 9 minutes, how to start and probably change your life. If you've got any questions, let me know.